Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And of course, that means some smart talk radio is in your future. In this segment, we love animals, do we not? And if you don't love animals, turn the radio off. This is all about animals. I'm very, very pleased to have with us Dr. Judy Morgan. She is the author of several books and a co-host of a podcast on holistic pet care. And she is a veterinarian. If you have not guessed that by now, she is a very strong believer in take care of animals in a holistic manner. And we're going to talk all things dogs, cats, and who knows, other things as well. Dr. Judy, so to speak, how are you, my friend?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
You know, always curious as to doctors get to talk to patients, and the patients can talk back, at least in their language. How did you make the decision to become a vet? And tell us about your trail into vet school.
It's actually a pretty funny story because when I went to undergrad, I've wanted to be a veterinarian since I was about 12 years old. And so I was very, very focused on that. And when I was in undergraduate at Rutgers University in New Jersey, they kept saying to us, you're not going to get in, you're not going to get in. At that point, it was very, very difficult. It was about 1 in 13 applicants got in, and it was still very much a man's field. So, based on that, my advisors kept saying, well, it's much easier to get into medical school. You should apply to medical school as a backup. And so I thought, okay. So I took a human anatomy class, and I went to the library, and I got out this human anatomy book, and it had the body cut in cross sections. And I took one look at that. I thought I was going to vomit. I slammed the book and said, I can't go to med school. I'll never make it to anatomy class. So there was no option,
Okay.
Which was fine because I really only wanted to work on animals anyway. So, and I've never looked back and never regretted it.
Well, I would think the covered or the furry world of animals is pleased that you're there. Are there I'm just curious, as a vet, when they say small animal versus large animal, give us a definition of that.
So large animals, we generally think about farm animals. So that could be, pigs, cows, horses, sheep, goats, even though there are now, the pot-bellied pigs and the pygmy pigs, and there's miniature horses, which I happen to own 2 of those. They're still considered, quote, large animals, whereas the small animals would be more like dogs, cats, and the small furry exotics.
Let's also, again, I mentioned at the top that you are very into holistic methods of treatment and looking at care for animals. Share with our Lewis at Large listeners, if you would, what is that, and how is that a departure from maybe the traditional veterinary care?
So basically, when you go to a traditional veterinarian, they'll look at your pet and they'll do diagnostics and they'll say, oh, he's got kidney disease. We need to treat the kidney disease. Whereas if you go to a holistic doctor, they're going to look more at the animal as a whole. And they might say, well, like for instance, might say, well, his kidneys aren't working as well as they should, but that's also causing him to have a drier coat, and it's causing him to drink more water, and it's causing him to have an off and on appetite. And look, his pads are dry, his nose is dry, his eyes are dry. And so we're going to look at the entire animal, and we're going to try to treat things, that are going to help the whole animal, and we're going to look at more the root cause rather than just putting Band-Aids on the overall symptom. So I'm going to try to heal that body as much as possible from within, and I'm going to try to do it without using medication, without using processed pet food. So I use whole, real foods for treatment. I use herbs. I use homeopathics. I'm going to use things that should have less side effects and less, more problems. When you see those drug commercials on TV and the last 30 seconds of the commercial is all the side effects and problems and, oh boy, it might kill you, we're trying to avoid that.
Right, okay. I'm curious, Dr. Morgan, your peer group, the local peers in the community where you practice in New Jersey and others in the practice, do they look at you as, oh, stop doing that, that's not right at all, or wow, this is trailblazing, we can learn? What's the reaction?
Well, I was holistic long before it was cool to be holistic, so they used to look at me like I was a little crazy, and what the other veterinarians in the area would do is they would send me their disaster cases that were dying and they had nothing left to offer, and they would say, well, go see her, she might have something. And the bad thing or good thing, I don't know. I usually did have something. And so whether it was acupuncture or herbs or food or just, gently helping them through the last phase of their life, people started to see that there was something to that. And so now there are a lot more pet owners who are looking for alternative care. And so what I've found in my area is almost every veterinary practice within a 25-mile radius has sent one of their doctors to learn acupuncture because that's the most respected of the alternative treatments that's out there. But the problem is if you have a traditional practice that's really traditional and you have one person who does acupuncture, they may be giving your dog acupuncture treatments, but then they also may be prescribing medications that are causing more side effects and more problems. They might be giving you processed prescription diets that are also causing more trouble. And again, they're still not treating the root cause. So I would say that a lot of my peers look at it and say, okay, there's something to this because she's getting longevity and health, and hey, the clients really like her and the pets really like her. What's going on there? I think they're a little frustrated by the fact that, when they open that avenue up in their practice, they don't get the same results. And it's because you have to really look at the whole thing, not just one little part of it.
Again, if you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. This segment got a good one going here with holistic veterinarian Dr. Judy Morgan, and she treats animals of all small animals of all kinds in New Jersey, and has written numerous books on the subject. She's also the co-host of a podcast on holistic pet care. We'll find out all that contact information towards the end of the interview here. Dr. Judy, am I wrong that figures are basically telling us that pets, dogs, cats, etc., are more popular and owned by more and more Americans than ever before? Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely.
Any particular reason for that?
We've got all those baby boomers who are now empty nesters for the most part. And so what do you fill your home with? I mean, look at me. My kids have grown up and moved out, and so I've got 9 dogs and 4 cats that moved in. We all want to give love and receive love, and pets are a wonderful way to do that. A lot of younger people are putting off, young professionals, they're putting off having families, but they want that companionship. So, a cat or a small dog is the perfect way to do that.
What about, do you have I'm just curious, in your particular practice, does it matter to you, dog or cat? Is there any particular breed or any particular kind of animal that's easier to treat, so to speak, than another?
Well, dogs are definitely easier to treat because cats are kind of unique individuals. They're not small dogs. I can make up a new diet and food therapy for a dog, and the dog says, oh, boy, you cooked me something. I love you. That's great. You do that for a cat, and they go, what's this? I don't like that. I'm not going to eat that. Ew. So cats are really difficult. Cats don't like to travel to the veterinarian. They don't like to get in the car. They don't like to get in the box. They don't necessarily like to be handled by strangers. I love cats. I have my own cats. But they are definitely can be more difficult to deal with, whereas dogs are just, they kind of go with the flow.
I think part of this conversation too is, and let's for the 1 or 2 people out there that do not own a pet but are thinking about one, I know you have some strong feelings, of course, about where those pets should come from or could come from, and some opportunities out there that maybe some people don't know regarding rescue organizations and others. Why don't you share your view on that, and how can somebody that's looking to add an animal to their home, what are some alternatives for them?
So I'm a huge proponent of rescue. I got involved in the rescue world about 15 years ago, and I've never looked back. And for me personally, I absolutely love adopting senior dogs. So generally, we consider senior anything 7 years and over, but I think that needs to be revamped because a lot of these 7-year-old dogs are living to be 17, so you're getting basically a full lifespan. But rescue organizations have really become very, very popular, and you can find a rescue organization for any breed. I personally am in love with Cavalier King Charles Spaniels and English Toy Spaniels and Cocker Spaniels, so I do rescue work for all of those. And, sometimes I will get in a pregnant mama, so I've got puppies available for adoption. So you can pick whatever breed you want, and you can find it somewhere through a rescue group. The local shelters, if you call them up and say, I'd really like to have a golden retriever or a golden retriever mix, can you put me on the list if you get one in? You should go check out your local shelter, look at Pet Finder, look at the rescue groups. Not everybody is reputable. You have to do your homework, but a lot of times when you get a pet through rescue, particularly if it's an adult that's been turned in, a lot of times they've lived in foster care. So the foster parents have taken care of the housebreaking and teaching them to walk on a leash and teaching them some manners, and they know the pluses and minuses of each individual dog. So you can say, well, I live in an apartment and I need a dog this size, and it has to be one who's not real barky, and it has to be one that can go up and down steps. And so they can tailor the individual pet to what you need.
What about, you mentioned millennials are waiting a little bit longer to have kids and sort of get established. Any difference in the generations in terms for either the breeds of dogs and or cats that they do, or cats versus dogs, or other small animals versus the traditional dog and cat based on just their age?
I think a lot of the millennials, because a lot of them are, kind of the young professionals, and they're not home a lot, and they've got apartments, they tend to gravitate toward cats because the cats are independent and they're good at apartment living in general. So, if you're gone for 8 or 10 hours during the day, your cat's kind of like, they'll be home. Whereas, somebody has to walk the dog. So I think that maybe they might tend a little more toward cats or small dogs, but we're finding them kind of across the board. Everybody has their one breed that they tend to gravitate toward, and so whether that's a pit bull or a German Shepherd or a Great Dane, whatever, sometimes it's what they grew up with. But I think that cats and apartment dwellers tend to be leading.
What about, and again, I'm going to go back now just to your work specifically as a veterinarian. What medical science for human has certainly made extraordinary strides over the last decade. What about for animals? What are some big medical strides in your world that you see that share with our listeners maybe some things they might not have even have thought about?
Oh, man. If it's available for people, it's pretty much available for animals. For instance, in my clinics, we've started doing stem cell therapy where we actually harvest the stem cells and process them and then re-inject them into joints to give renewed vigor to dogs with arthritis. They're using stem cell therapy for kidney disease. They're doing kidney transplants. They're doing heart valve transplants, prosthetic legs with the 3D printing. You name it, it's pretty much, MRIs, CT scans, they're run-of-the-mill. We send animals for those every day. Ultrasounds we're doing all day, every day. So if it's available in the human field, it's pretty much being done in the animal field pretty quickly. Sometimes the animal field is ahead of the human field because that's where they're kind of doing their groundwork.
Let's also do this. Let's jump now back to the idea of we don't own a pet. We haven't owned a pet. Maybe we're a single couple. Maybe we're a couple with young children, but we're going to go start our search for a pet. Share with our listeners, if you would, give them some strategies, some things to think about as they do their search, some places they can research, and also, again, what kind of things do they need to know just about themselves before they adopt an animal?
Okay. So you need to know what your time schedule is, whether you can deal with an animal that's going to be high energy and need a lot. If you're an outdoor person who goes hiking, then you want to get one of those high energy animals that's going to be able to do that, and you might want a younger animal. If you're an apartment dweller, you're a senior citizen, and you want to get somebody that's company, then you're going to want somebody that's quiet and wants to sit in your lap all day. If you have stairs that you have to go up and down, then you need to consider, is that pet going to be able to go up and down those stairs? If you have small children, you need to look for a breed or a particular animal that is either used to young children or that you can bring up with the children. You need to talk to people who own that particular breed that you're looking for. If you see somebody walking down the street with a Great Dane and you think that would be an awesome, cool dog to own, you better go talk to that person and say, hey, tell me what you need to know about Great Danes. How much do they eat? What's it going to cost me to feed that dog? How much are his vet bills per year? Because it's going to be more for a Great Dane than it is for a Maltese. You can go online and read articles about any of them, and you can call rescue groups and say, hey, tell me about your particular breed. Most really good rescue groups like our Cavalier Cavalier Group, you can go online to our websites, and we have tons of information about the breed, what kind of medical problems you're looking at, what personality issues you might have, so that you have something in the back of your mind that you can say, well, yeah, that one sounds like that would be a great one for me, or, oh, my God, that would, a St. Bernard in our 200-square-foot apartment, that's never going to work.
Okay. What about, and again, if you just joined us, we're talking to Dr. Judy Morgan. She is a blogger as an outreach of her veterinary medicine practice back in New Jersey. She's also the author of several books on holistic care for animals, and she is a tremendous believer, as you can have heard and can imagine, on the concept of rescue animals as well. Judy, when you think about medicine and the future of veterinary medicine, I'm sure there's lots of science to it. You taking a more holistic view. What about young people coming into the profession? Are they interested in veterinary medicine, or is there a need for good vets everywhere?
There's a need for good vets everywhere. We are seeing huge changes, kind of like the mom-and-pop drugstores went the way of the big chains. We're seeing more and more of the individual veterinary practices converting over to being part of the bigger corporate chains, partly because of financial reasons. Sometimes there's more resources available to the bigger groups than there are to the individual owner. But we're also seeing that a lot of the younger graduates don't necessarily want to be practice owners. Owning a business isn't for everyone, and it takes up a lot more time than just being the employed veterinarian. And a lot of people that are coming out say, I really want to just practice medicine. I really don't want to have to be a business person. So we're seeing those kinds of changes in the field, but I think medicine-wise, it is getting better and better all the time. The students that are coming out are exposed to things that weren't even a twinkle in somebody's eye when I was in school. So, I think the quality of medicine just keeps going up and up.
What about, do people still have birds as pets? Maybe it's just me, maybe the people I hang around with. I don't see as many birds in cages screaming out Pollywanta Cracker as I used to, or is that wrong on my part?
I think there's just as many out there. I don't treat birds. I used to own birds as well, and I have a friend who is an avian veterinarian who happens to be fairly close by, so anytime I had a problem with my birds, I would take them to him. But there's still a big call for that, and, there are some people that just love birds and they can't have, four-legged pets that they have to take out for walks and that sort of thing, so they love having birds. But birds are a huge commitment, too. They really actually need a lot of attention.
Well, as we kind of start to wind down here, I would like you to, again, there are some tremendous veterinarians in our particular listening area, but I would like to have you, if you would, kind of lay out the case for, again, how you practice medicine. And I know you use technology, but again, you also take a very holistic view. Lay out that case for our listeners, if you would.
So one of the big differences with holistic veterinarians is the huge vaccination debate that goes on with children and also with animals. New research is showing that the vaccinations that they receive as puppy and kittens may last them an entire lifetime, and there is absolutely no need to vaccinate every single year. And the AVMA, which is our national organization, now recommends vaccinating no more often than every 3 years. A lot of veterinarians are afraid to go to that because they're afraid that clients will not bring their animals in for that annual examination. So what I would really highly recommend to your listeners is take your animals in every year for that annual exam, because that's the most important thing that you can do to make sure that they haven't developed a heart murmur, that they're not, having hearing issues or eye issues, that they're not developing liver disease or kidney disease. But the vaccinations every year are really going out the window, and so we are fighting really hard to get people to understand that, and that's explained really well in my book, From Needles to Natural, Learning Holistic Pet Healing, and also on my website, drjudymorgan.com, and my Facebook page, Judy Morgan DVM. We are looking to get more toward away from the chemicals for the flea and tick prevention and look at more natural alternatives, not only for the health of our pets and ourselves, but also for our environment. We're killing our environment with all the chemicals that we're using.
Well, we can talk about animals forever, and I have a feeling Dr. Judy could do that with us and probably leave us in the dust here. But We have been talking to Dr. Judy Morgan. She is a practicing vet for more than 3 decades. Author, as she mentioned earlier, she's the author of several books and also has co-hosts a podcast. Again, give us the website again real quick.
drjudymorgan.com, drjudymorgan.com.
All right. Hey, listen, thank you so much for your insights. Appreciate it. And best of luck to you and the 9 animals that live under your... Is it 9 animals or more than that?
13.
13 animals that live under your roof. And do the kids come back at home or do they just stay at a hotel? Now, we're not going back to mom's. We're just staying in a hotel.
No, they're out on their own.
They're out on their own. Okay. Well, listen, again, thank you so much. We'd love to have you on again.
Thank you so much.
You bet. We will be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.